Hello and welcome to my channel. So I've been watching a lot of scuba diving videos on YouTube lately, people picking up trash and just finding stuff. And it reminded me of the time I was getting scuba certified and almost drowned. Now some people watching who aren't familiar with scuba diving might think, how can you drown while scuba diving? You have air attached to you, air in your mouth and everything. It's actually quite easy to drown while scuba diving. The mouthpiece could, get knocked out of your mouth, all out of your mouth, and you could swallow water, and then, you're 90 feet down, hover deep underneath the surface, and you could drown very easily. Mask ripped off or mask gets bumped off, and you snort up a bunch of water. Also, people run out of air and they drown that way too. When I was stationed in Hawaii, there was actually a scuba diver who became stuck between two rocks, like his tank became stuck, and he he got stuck there, and then his buddy went to the surface to go get help, and by the time they came back for him, the guy had run out of air and died. This happened to me 10 years ago, and it was definitely the scariest moment of my life. It traumatized me as far as like ever continuing scuba diving. So this happened while I was getting scuba certified. I had wanted to get into scuba diving. I really loved the water. Like, I was really into snorkeling as it was. I had gotten into surfing, and there was a civilian who worked in our shop who was a certified instructor, allegedly, through PADI, which is the International Diving Association. So he was going around to the young junior enlisted, such as myself, and he was offering to certify people for $300 a piece. So he had us come over to his house one weekend, full 2-day course with long hours. I didn't know anything about scuba diving certification or standards, safety, anything like that. So he took us to Electric Beach to get familiarized with our equipment. We got familiarized with our equipment 30 feet underwater. Now, if you know anything about scuba diving, this is not what you're supposed to do. You're supposed to do it in a pool that's like 4 feet deep. So if anything happens, which it does a lot of the time with beginners, they can just rise up to the surface. The problem with doing it 30 feet under is people try to rush to the surface, and they can get like the bends and stuff like that. They can get all sorts of things happen to them and even die. This guy took us 30 feet, first day, first hour, first exercise. Nobody was familiar with their equipment. I had worn a mask before because I had it for snorkeling and that kind of thing, and I had bought flippers for snorkeling, so that was about everything I was familiar with. So we're sitting on the bottom of the ocean, away from the current a little bit, but I remember one of the first things that he tried to do was remove our masks. And he said, this is a exercise that you need to pass in order to become certified, which is true. You do need to be able to remove your mask underwater and put it back on. However, again, this is supposed to be done in like a 4-foot deep pool. This guy thought he was like a hot shot. He claimed that he was trained and certified by a diver who trained Navy SEALs. So this guy thought he was like a pseudo Navy SEAL, which is not that rare. Lots of fake treats. So he went around with no warning and just ripped off people's masks. So first of all, when you're getting certified, the instructors are supposed to work with you one-on-one and take off your mask, and then if you're feeling uncomfortable, you can just stand up in 4 feet of water and just be above the surface if you're, over 4 feet tall. And this guy just totally he would go up behind people and rip it off. He was going around in a circle. And I don't remember if I was the first one he did it to or what, but I, of course, panicked and swallowed a bunch of water. And I tried to just bolt up to the surface, and he kind of held me down and forced the mouthpiece back into my regulator. Obviously swallowed a bunch of water. I almost blacked out. I mean, I was choking for like, I don't know how long. And then the water was like stinging my eyes. It got through my mouth. I mean, honestly, it's a miracle I didn't drown. I guess he must have cleared out my mask. I got out of the water at that point. I went up to the surface with him, like he helped me up to the surface, and a few other people also panicked too. It was just not a good situation. Obviously, you don't want to put beginners in that environment. Oh, and it was like 20 of us, just one instructor. So swam up to the surface and then swam back to shore. By the way, the waves were breaking. These are big waves, and I was used to waves because I was a beginner surfer. I still am. You really should not be doing that for your very first dive, be going out into rough water. So we struggled back to the beach, and I just remember coughing and coughing and coughing, and I did not want to go back the next day. And I told my friend that I was with, I was like, I'm not coming back. And the instructor was like, well, I'm not going to certify you if you can't take off your mask, and if you can't do this and that. The next day I came back, and he was a lot more gentle with me, and he helped me, showed me how to clear my mask, and he like very gently, I let like a tiny bit of water in, and then pushed it out, which I've since practiced in the pools and stuff like that, so it's a lot better. That ended up traumatizing me for years. There was a diving excursion with this couple that was in my unit, and they took me out along with several others, and I went to go descend below the surface with this female officer that was in my unit, and I had kind of told her this is only my third dive, I don't really know what I'm doing, so she was going to be right next to me. Well, I started descending with the regulator in my mouth, and I just panicked. I panicked and like shot up a sister. Well, I grabbed onto her because she was right next to me, which is what people who are drowning do. And she was kind of mad. She was like, "Why did you grab me?" And I explained everything about my instructor ripping off my mask and me near blacking out and drowning. She was, "You should not, that guy does not need to be an instructor." She asked me for his name and everything, and I gave it to her. I should have really, the weekend I was getting certified and almost drowned and swallowed all that water, I really should have gone to the hospital and gotten checked out, but I didn't know to. But I now know there's this thing called dry drowning, where if you swallow a bunch of water and it gets into your lungs, you can actually die days later. So that's great. So a few years after that, I think it was 4 years after that, I decided to go back and do a little bit of a refresher, recertify in a pool in a safe environment, and kind of try to overcome my fears. So I did that, stationed in Maryland at the time, and I went down to Northern Virginia and found a scuba store that was offering recertification class. Definitely really panicking, but I passed everything, and I was like slowly, and I explained to the instructor, "Hey, this is what happened to me, I almost drowned." The first time I was getting certified. So, and they were really patient with me and everything. Overcame my fears a bit, not really, but somewhat. And then before that, right after this happened, it may have been a year later after getting certified scuba, I went to the island of Maui, experience of a lifetime. I went scuba diving off of Molokini, which is a sunken volcanic crater off of Maui. I've been wanting to do that for years, so I went scuba, and scuba diving is a cross between snorkeling and scuba. You basically have a little life raft that has air in it, and then you have a 20-foot long hose with a regulator that you have in your mouth, and that's it. So you can just swim 20 feet down, and that's it, which is still pretty cool. So I did that, and I really had trouble descending. One of the, I guess, instructors, one of the employees on the cruise was like, "Are you okay?" I guess just having a regulator in my mouth was just really, I don't want to say triggering, but it was. And so it took me a few times to actually descend. And I really got into a little bit of free diving, not really, I mean, it was kind of snorkeling without the snorkel, so it was some beginner free diving. And I did a lot of that because there was no regulator and there was no tank, wasn't all this equipment, and it was free to go free diving. And so that was a lot better for me and a lot easier for me than scuba diving. It wasn't traumatizing or anything. And I think I got up to like holding my breath for 1:30 seconds, so not too terrible. Past couple months since I've been watching all these scuba diving videos of people doing all these cleanups and stuff like that along the water and everything, it kind of made me think I'm really missing out on a lot. There's so much more that I could discover while scuba diving and just, you know, go different places and see all these cool things. So I decided I was going to get recertified again. This past weekend, I went and got recertified with the same company that I went through in 2017. They're really good. They're really patient. Everything went pretty good. I did get a little nervous when it came time they had you blow out your regulator, which I had never done before. Take your regulator out of your mouth and then clear it. You're supposed to clear it with you're supposed to roll your tongue back and block your throat and all this jazz. And it took me a few times, and I did have to pop up to the surface because it was 4 feet deep or 3 feet deep, however long. And so I popped up, and then the mask clearing really freaked me out. But I got through it, which is good. I'm going to practice it in our community pool here. Actually taking off, they have you tilt the mask forward and then get it full of water to clear it out. And then you're supposed to tip it back, and they want you to do it with your thumbs at this scuba school. And then you just blow out your nose and clear it out. And I have a real hard time, the instructor told me, just breathing through my mouth and not through my nose. So I've got to work on that. It's easier for me to just take off my whole mask, put it on, blow it out, and then pull the strap back. They showed us how to do it, and for some reason that was just a lot easier than tilting it back. So anyway, I hope to showcase some diving adventures on this channel. The diving shop does do excursions to other countries, which I will not go on for a while, but obviously need to be comfortable in my own backyard. They do diving excursions in Virginia, So I definitely want to do one of those. They said they're having one coming up in a few months. Hopefully I can film it and show it on my channel. Maybe do it at Lake George sometime. I just recently did some free diving at Lake George. That was pretty fun. Even more interesting with a scuba tank. Last a lot longer. Anyway, thank you for watching, and that's it.
Follow me for more outdoor adventures. Thanks for watching.